was 2014 at the Korea Open, where he lost to Xu Xin in the semifinal. Patrick Franziska of Germany is the 25th seed in this tournament, was out of the game for some time after a hip injury. They discovered in his x-ray that he had a bone issue that he didn't feel and didn't know, and the doctor said, you have to stop playing. 6 months out, he comes back against, and this is not his first injury either, so he's had his share of injuries that have taken him out of the game. And he was world ranked 69 when he stopped. Do you know a bit more about his injuries, Julia?
Yeah, actually, I was talking to him the other day, and he said he was having a very difficult time due to his injuries, and especially the last one, the hip one. And now he was a little bit afraid in his opening match not to go back to the injury again, but he was feeling cool and he recovered very fast from it, like already a month since he started practicing.
Well, he's definitely playing out here like he's almost a new man, and it's not like they gave him a hip replacement. He simply recovered. He comes out here in the opening round, beats Yuya Oshima, which is quite an upset, quite a strong victory. And then after that, Koki Niwa. And Koki Niwa's in the best form I've seen him. Koki Niwa is one of the last 3 non-Chinese players to beat Ma Long. And there's the new coach for the Swedish national team, or at least working with them. Marcus had to step out. And so Peter has spent some time, Blomqvist, working with Kristian KARLSSON and juniors and being a national coach for a long time. Umpire for the match, Oh Bok-ja, Korea. We'll show you our assistant umpire here in just a moment. There she is. It's Yang Soo-ki from Korea. So yeah, beating Koki Niwa, Franziska, that's so impressive. Remember, Koki Niwa just last week beat Xu Xin in one of the most amazing displays of touch and aggression I've seen in the same match. And still, Koki Niwa was in the shadows of Miu Hirano. But Kristian KARLSSON this tournament started off in the opening round, beating Romania's own Ovidiu Ionescu, 4-2, quite a match. And then Simon Gauzy after that. There's Jorg Roskopf. Speaking of Olympic medalists, in the corner for Patrick Franziska, one of 3 German players to make it to the quarterfinals. So quite a strong showing for the Germans coming into the Dusseldorf World Championships next month.
Talking about that, Franziska used to play there until last year in Borussia Dusseldorf club, and Kristian KARLSSON is an active player right now in Borussia Dusseldorf. So they are both playing in a special place.
That's right. Best of 7, KARLSSON to serve. There's that backhand, the rocket backhand, tuck and rip to start off the match. Now, I didn't see it, but I have to imagine Kristian KARLSSON just jumped the barriers to get the ball as the crowd oohed and awed. He does tend to do that from time to time. Not sure if he lost the ball in the lighting. It appears by his reaction that on that service there, that might have been the issue. This is his first day playing on the center court with the new lighting. Beautiful shot from Franziska, sneaks it past him on the backhand side. It is always a little different playing when it's down to just one table. The lighting's a bit more intense, a bit different. Just a short warm-up for the players, but still, it's not the same as tossing your serve. Now, head-to-head, these two have played 2 times in the past. And despite the difference in world ranking, again, Franziska left the world rankings at 69. And currently, Kristian KARLSSON is 28. Franziska's won both of their encounters.
1-4.
Bit more of a punch there on the backhand, but still good read and a confident shot from Franziska.
Franziska's main objective for this year was to enter again top 50, which he lost due to the injuries he was suffering. So that's his main task.
Right, he also talked about not getting injured, how that seemed to be pretty high on the priority list. Clever idea from KARLSSON, but a well-placed serve leaves it right at the back edge of the table. Very difficult receive for KARLSSON. think all of us could take a few pointers from you, Hirano, on the quick decisions in the receive game. The power from Franziska on the forehand, we've seen it so many times throughout this tournament. It's been trouble. His opponents have only been able to take one game off him per match, including Yuya Oshima and Koki Niwa. 4-1 victories for Franziska.
2-7.
Only the second point for KARLSSON so far. Despite his opening backhand that just looks so powerful.
8-2. I remember your comment during Timo Boll's match talking about left-handers and not so good backhand, which seems that Franziska knows also, and he's insisting there right now.
And I know what you mean, just to rephrase, make sure that it wasn't confused, that the forehand tends to be more dominant with left-handed players. They have more advantage using their forehand. But, you know, Timo Boll's backhand, again, we talked about how great that is. Marcos Freitas has quite a steady backhand. KARLSSON has a lot of power. But it is a good strategy, I think, to play it deep to the backhand of a left-handed player. You know, even Shushin, right, is so confident in his forehand compared to the consistency of his backhand that Koki Niwa, when interviewed, said he would try to play out wide to the forehand first.
4-9.
And that's because when you're less confident in your backhand, you tend to want to step around the corner, which would leave open the forehand side. Very patient, soft touch there on that spinny ball. He had to brush it ever so faintly to keep it in play. Outstanding points. Look at this, some of the shots here that we've seen. Again, every time someone hits a shot that hard and it even comes back, it's just breathtaking. Extra side spin on that ball, and KARLSSON's able to cover and come down on it. Very quick to apologize, though, for any unintended success. Clever placement, steps around. This is, again, that unpredictability factor, Yulia. Would have been obvious to go inside out with that ball, but he plays it down the line. Could even see Franziska starting to move out to the forehand.
I think his tactic is based on the backhand, playing on KARLSSON's backhand. And until now it worked, but now at the end, KARLSSON also is fighting back a little bit more.
Definitely was. This is a big point here for Franziska. Top of the net there with the side spin. Ball completely jumps. 3 game points for Franziska to take the first. Once again, little apology there, but it's 11-7. Franziska takes game 1. You know, you can, as a European player, as a European professional, you might be able to tell me better, even if, not sure if they're the same generation. Of course, Franziska 24 years old and KARLSSON 25.
A little bit younger.
So maybe you're not familiar with the familial intertanglings here. Franziska dating the sister of Kristian KARLSSON.
Sorry, I'm not updated with this news yet. I will check it out for you in case.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll check them later. I think that might be the case, but they're definitely sort of like in-laws unofficially. So they have this rapport like brothers, you know? They're both good friends.
You really want to open that subject?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do. I want to get down and dirty. Let's talk about it. No, I just think it's interesting to see their rapport, and they are both very kind players. They're both very humble, hardworking, and fair players. But on top of that, they have outstanding respect for each other in almost a familial sense.
This is what I wanted to say also, that they're very nice and humble and very well-educated and nice persons.
Yeah, I had a lot of chances to talk with both players and the bus ride home recently, and even some of Kristian KARLSSON's family when we were in Sweden. Very well raised. I mean, I don't know. You can just tell by the way people treat other people, and Kristian KARLSSON is just a high-quality person. even when I tried to ask him about it, he had a really humble answer, but honest too. It's not like false humility, you know? Little break off the top of the net. These players are playing it so low to the net. Feels like about 5 or 6 points have been ended with net balls between the two of them. And a pretty fair balance, I would say. That forehand flip has been so strong throughout this tournament from FRANZISKA. It's one ingredient that I just feel is almost like a make it or break it for a player.
Come on.
3, strong flip. 1.
This time a kicking serve looks like it comes a little bit longer. I think service length was something that troubled Kristian KARLSSON in game 1. FRANZISKA was able to get a lot of opening attacks with balls coming off the table.
4.
And at the same time, caught in a very difficult position on that half-long forehand serve. There's that fast, long serve to shake it up and break the rhythm.
One thing I noticed about men table tennis, these long serves. Before it used to be more short service. I guess it was because of the spin that the ball was acquiring. But now I could see each time more long, surprising serves.
1-5.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, you're still probably going to get about 80% of your serves half long, but it does seem like players are increasing their surprise factor.
1-6.
I guess whenever someone knows what to expect, it gives them more of an advantage. They can prepare better. So if you can fool them in any way, shape, or form, suddenly they have to improvise and start from scratch almost.
No, but in women, before it was more
7,
popular.
1.
But now I can also see it in men's match.
Oh, you're saying women would serve long and serve for surprises more often?
Yes.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Or at least this is
1.
from my point of view and from Romanian tactic, let's say. Let's call it like this.
Why do you think that is?
Why we used it.
Yes.
Mainly, the surprise factor was a thing when the opponent gets used to your play and knows exactly what you're going to do. If you're having it a limited possibility or limited abilities, so you have to take the other one out from his comfort zone.
Well, I guess my real question, and we'll talk about it more between games, is why in the women's game but not the men's earlier? Either way, we see Patrick FRANZISKA here with that strong receive right at the back end of the table. It's been real trouble for Kristian KARLSSON to establish himself in the points. And look at the score here. The very first point of the game, KARLSSON with a ripping backhand. And it feels like it's been forever since we've seen a similar shot. Once again, serve sits up just a little bit in that forehand flip kill. He's dangerous all over the table right now, FRANZISKA. I mean, it almost seems like it's the disadvantage for Kristian KARLSSON being left-handed, serving into that forehand flip.
11.
The second bounce on the table, perfect length and a dominant performance from FRANZISKA.
Kristian KARLSSON is not able to do his game. Somehow, FRANZISKA is controlling the entire game and he's taking the initiatives on each point. And I'm sure that Jörg Robskov would advise him to play deep in his backhand and from them try to move him around the table.
Right, I was just thinking, what about a long serve deep into the body on the backhand side, mixing it up, maybe even short on the backhand just to see, but if the ball sits up even a little bit, I mean, one advantage, you know, people always ask, is it better to be tall in table tennis? And it doesn't seem to be a huge advantage because for everything that you gain in reach, it costs you more in the time of your shot and you have a bigger middle, right? You're also, your center of gravity is higher. I mean, if there were any obvious advantage to being tall in table tennis, Deng Yaping wouldn't be 4'11" and the greatest of all time. Lu Guoliang wouldn't be, I mean, if you look at the average heights of the most dominant players on both sides of the game, they're not especially tall. Interestingly enough, both of these players are quite tall. Kristian KARLSSON doesn't look tall. When he's playing, he gets quite low, but he's 183 centimeters. And then Franziska's
So the game
got to be a good 4 or 5
Carlsson
bigger.
up.
I think the young European generation, they're, especially in men, they're all very tall.
Guess we have to look at where they're coming from, average heights and whatnot in those nations.
That the or
Dangerous again. This placement, I think, on the serve has been tested many times. Of course, there's spin variation and whatnot, but that half-long serve to the forehand is trouble. Wow, so quick. The ball's just up for a moment and it disappears. Reads the rotation, he knows where the table is and that he can get a full arm swing at that.
And he knows exactly what he has to do and he sticks to it.
The feet are moving so well from Franziska too. As soon as he serves, he's starting to get set up. As soon as Kristian Karlsson contacts the ball, the shuffle is made. Now, in addition to height, I would say physical strength. You know, Franziska's a big guy, and from legs to arms, everything. I mean, he's a big, strong guy. And he can get a full swing like that. It's gonna have a lot of spin. He's just picking his place on the table right now. Inside out, deep to the corner. Some clear frustration as Karlsson drops his racket on the table.
I'm curious if they're practicing a lot together and they know each other very well in the game as players, because Franziska seems to know perfectly.
Wow, unstoppable. This is just a bullet, the gunpowder on that backhand. Franziska, somebody grab a fire extinguisher right now. Just blows that ball past him.
set 7 love.
I don't think we have expected this score right now.
Yeah, quite. I mean, well, last game, 11-2, so it's not that far off. Heavy underspin change up from Karlsson. I think this is good. Instead of doing a traditional pendulum and putting a little bit of side spin on it half long, goes for straight underspin, adds to the spin. Wow, once again, Franziska just not missing. He's reading the ball so well. He's getting in position, staying on top of it for the counters and picking his place on the table. What are you gonna do? I think that's the first time I've seen him without his feet in the right spot for a shot. Just a moment behind the ball. Karlsson playing it well. I'd say short, bringing him in over the table. So you asked about them playing together. So if I'm not mistaken, unless Franziska moved, he was practicing in Saarbrücken. I think with Jonathan Groth. And there's one other big player there. Forget, I went to the club one time when we were there.
3-10.
And now 7 game points for Franziska to go up 3-0 over Kristian Karlsson.
But yeah, considering that Karlsson is practicing in Düsseldorf, maybe that sometimes they are playing together.
Yeah, my geography in Germany is definitely not tip-top right now, so. But they are in the same country for sure. You would probably know better than I do. Look at the scores, my goodness. 12 points total for Kristian Karlsson to 33 for Franziska. Sorry, you were going to say, Julia?
Let's hope that will not have side effects on the family.
Right. Now, this is always interesting. You know, we just in the U.S. team trials, I saw two sisters, the young sisters, play each other in the first round. One's 2 years older than the other. And, I mean, only one continues, right? They're actual blood siblings from the same pool of genes, swimming together in the gene pool.
I think for me that would be difficult, you know? I mean, you're fighting and you're giving everything for that, for table tennis, and then when you're fighting against a brother or a family, then that must be very hard.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's also interesting, the competitive aspect. I mean, professional athletes, I'm sure you've met people who are decent at a sport but hate to see their opponent lose. They just feel bad for them. That's not the making of a champion. A very nice person, yes. Nothing wrong with that, but in this sport, I mean, these, you know, they come to the table, they're both trying their hardest to win. They're both going to be okay with it, win or lose. At least they're going to be okay with their opponent. But KARLSSON is just not finding any answers right now, and he calls a timeout. I think that's the third racket drop we've heard this match. It's got to be frustrating. I mean, you know the feeling. We're both players, you at a much higher level, obviously. But that feeling of you have a plan, you know what your strengths are, but nothing is working, and you can't find a way to make the game your own.
That is terrible, especially, let's say you're practicing one thing and you have it in your mind, your tactic, and you've done it 1 million times, if not billion times, and now you're trying it and it just doesn't come up. So that is very frustrating, and sometimes even easy mistakes, but it happens. So the thing is how are you able to adapt to the other one's game?
Right, and having a coach in your corner who knows your game can definitely help to bring out your strengths, sort of activate what it is that makes you so threatening and so strong. Peter Blomqvist of the Swedish team, he played in the Swedish league for 10 years. He's been coaching for 15 years at the same club with Jens Lundqvist, Jon Persson, Anton Kjellberg. And the heavy spin shot, he's starting, you heard him grunt that time. It's been a while since we've heard him grunt on a shot. And if he can keep it low to the net with heavy spin, it's going to create a bit more difficulty for the counterattack of Franziska. The grunt is still there, 2 in a row. You know, Blomqvist has worked with Kristian KARLSSON for 2 to 3 years before when KARLSSON was a junior. So he is familiar with his game and his personality as well. Fired up, a few counters off the bounce.
I think in this moment is more important the mental aspect than the tactic or anything. I think right now it's very important to be confident.
Right, and I think this, yeah, no, I agree. Confidence is super important out here.
3-4.
Both players vocalizing. Timeout definitely paid off, though. 3 points in a row for KARLSSON right out of the timeout from down 0-2. And much like Timo Boll, both of these players are fighting, they're showing, vocalizing.
3-4.
A player can be so dangerous if their backhand is that strong, and the forehand as well. Down the line, doesn't leave KARLSSON a lot of options.
Backhand spin parallel can be one of the most trickiest shots and most dangerous shots.
For sure.
Even if it's strong or not so strong.
Beautiful backhand, KARLSSON arcing it deep to the corner of the table. Steps into the lead once again. Franziska tested on that wingspan on the forehand side, but the element of surprise keeps him guessing. Ooh, everybody was oohing and awing. You could hear the crowd get behind that first Kristian KARLSSON block. Sort of like when Hirano would hit that shot and it would come back. People thought Franziska can hit it that hard and it comes back on the table. Who is this guy? Kristian KARLSSON. think that's my favorite Kristian KARLSSON serve. Did you see what he did there?
Yes, his backhand.
Well, no, so he does a forehand serve where it looks like it's going to be pendulum and it kicks the other way. It's very difficult to read the contact. I think that was the first time I'd seen that specific serve in the match, but here he does very good spin variation. Sometimes it's heavy underspin, sometimes it's a lot lighter, like the last one. And while we see FRANZISKA sweating there, I think literally, so physically and figuratively, he's starting to sweat. The pressure's building. I mean, the last two games were no contest from KARLSSON, 11-2 and 11-3, and they're dead even here.
I think now he really wants to win this set. He doesn't want to complicate it, because afterward, after this set can be open.
That's right, you never know what's going to happen when your opponent starts to gain a little bit of confidence. We've seen comebacks from down 0-3. Once again, last week in a best of 5, down 0-2 against the world champion, the Olympic gold medalist and world #1. There was a comeback from Yu Hirano. But 2 big points for FRANZISKA here to step back into the lead. First time he had a 2-point lead that I can recall since 2-0 at the timeout. Placement from FRANZISKA. He's got the power, but plays it a little bit more into the body, which stands up Kristian KARLSSON. Not a lot, but just a little bit in. You can see his weight start to shift over. Makes it tough to stay on top of the ball. Outstanding touch from KARLSSON, but FRANZISKA's just playing too well right now. I mean, that point, KARLSSON seemed to do almost everything right, and still FRANZISKA managed to pull it out. 4 match points. Outstanding receive. Right off the bounce, leaves it just over the net, low and heavy spin. The ball's going to come back long, and KARLSSON earns that opening attack as a 4th ball. Still 3 match points to save. Too strong, 2 shots in a row, and FRANZISKA just simply played an outstanding match out here. And it's unfortunate for Kristian KARLSSON, but you could see the empathy in the face. FRANZISKA was thrilled to win that match, but looked at him like, brother, I'm really sorry.
Almost feeling sorry about winning, no?
Yeah, we could see it, and look at the scores. The scores say it all. For me, the best game of the match was Kristian KARLSSON's last game, and still 11-7 for FRANZISKA, and a proud Jörg Roskopf in the corner as another German moves on to the men's singles semifinals. Exciting stuff, Julia.
Very good match, and Patrik FRANZISKA proved again that he's back and he's here to stay. And you know, it's very possible for both Germans. Now, with both Germans in semi-final, we could even get to a German final. So
yeah, definitely possible. Looking at who's next on the men's side, which will be later today, we've got Marcos Freitas, who is the 5th seed in this tournament, maybe the top seed left behind Timo Boll. I think Timo Boll 3rd seed, if I'm not mistaken, and Lim Jong-hoon from Korea, who's having the tournament of his life. He's the hope of Korea right now. We'll talk more about him later, but the next match coming up should be an exciting one. It's Hina Hayata of Japan versus Kasumi Ishikawa, 2 left-handed players from Japan. Women's singles match coming up right after this. You're watching the Seamaster 2017 Korea Open.